guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Illy and this is my baby boy, Zay. Welcome to the channel. Well, today I'm gonna talk about how I had this little baby at 17, and that's my 17 and pregnant story. Say yay! Yay! Well, so it all started, me and my baby dad, his dad, I was 14 when we started dating and he was 15. So I'm currently gonna be 19 soon, so that's a very long time. So me and him started dating in the 8th grade. I was pushing around the trash and he was friends with my stepbrother, and after I would have to do the trash, I was in trouble, so I had to push around the trash so everyone could throw away their trash. So after that, I would go and I would sit down. First I would eat, I'll go do the trash, and then I'll go sit down. So after I sit down, I met my stepbrother's friend, and that was my baby dad at the time. And I didn't know him. He was very like shy and quiet, and I was just the crazy, all hectic vibes, and he really liked that about me. So I was a weirdo. So I had him on Facebook and I didn't even know him at the time. So I text him, I'm like, hey, and we started talking. We kicked it, we kind of clicked a little bit, and then after we were talking for about like a month or so, I kind of stopped talking to him. I don't know, I just stopped talking to him. And then after I stopped talking to him, about the next month, like a couple weeks later, I start talking to him again out of nowhere. And then I asked him if he wants to hang out, like after school, if he wanted to hang out, and he said sure. So we met in the park at the school and we just clicked. We started talking ever since, and we didn't stop talking, and we was dating for about 2 years after that. And then at that 2-year period, we stopped talking for like about a month. We just stopped. So after we stopped talking, I don't know, we just stopped. And then we started talking again out of nowhere, randomly hitting each other up, talking about our feelings, talking about how we miss each other. And we went back together. We started dating again for another year, so that's 3 years. And then after that, we took another break in 2018. We started dating in 2016, and then in 2018 we took another break. And that break was for about 4 months, and we started talking to other people, and I think that's what damaged our relationship a little bit too much, because the fact that we stopped talking, and we started talking to other people, enjoying our life. We took a break and everything, and then we started talking again 2018. After the 4 months was over, after we stopped talking for 4 months, we started talking again. His friend told me to text him, to text my baby dad, so I did. And me and him started talking, and that day that we started talking, he said, do you want me to walk you home from school? So he picked me up from school. We started walking. We walked all the way to his house, and after we walked to his house, it took me I went home like 2 hours later, and so we started talking again, and we went to his house, yeah. And then after I stayed at his house for about 2 hours, I came home, and then nobody knew we were dating still. Like my family, like I told them we broke up. Everybody thought we were cut off for good. Everyone thought we wasn't gonna get back together. My family didn't like him anymore because he got problems with my brother. Everybody, like everything just got fucked up everywhere. So after that, we just started talking for about, we was back to dating for about like 2 months, and then in November, we got back together September. In November, I was kind of getting sick. I was getting pregnancy symptoms. I missed my period. I was I think I was like a month DPO, and I didn't even notice until after. And so I took a pregnancy test. It came out very faint, like the line was very faint. So I bought a box of 2, so I saved the next one. I looked up why it's faint, and they said it was to just wait a little because it usually means that you're pregnant, but you're just very early in your pregnancy. So I waited a couple weeks. I waited like about 6 to 7 days, and then I took another one. So after I took the other one came out very, very positive. Like the line was dark and everything. There was no doubt about it. So I told my baby dad, and we was both excited. He didn't believe me at first, and then after he started believing it after we went to see the ultrasounds and everything. And I made an appointment for November 20 something, like before I told anybody. So I think my dad got a letter saying I went to the hospital, but he didn't know why. But so I tell my grandma, I made a little booklet, and I put like my pregnancy test, 2 of the pregnancy tests. I write a letter for the baby when he's born, and I just made a whole little booklet saying all that. And then I tell my grandma, actually I went to my appointment before I ever told anybody. I went to an appointment, and they told me I was about 6 weeks pregnant. And so I tell my grandma, and my grandma said, so I give her the booklet, and I tell her, and then she throws the book on the floor. So I'm like, I didn't know what to say. I just stayed quiet. And she said, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? And then she starts yelling at me, and she tells me how I'm gonna tell my dad, how I was gonna tell my aunt, how I was gonna tell my family. And she started crying, and I didn't know what to do. So hi, you okay? So I waited. She told my aunt like probably a couple weeks after, probably 2 weeks after I told her. And then my aunt, one day, we was working together because we used to work together, and my aunt left. We left work early that day. I didn't know why, but she left me. We left work early that day, and then we went to the car, and that's when she was like, do you have something to tell me? Do you have something to tell me? And then she says, I know you're pregnant. And then she gives me like a whole speech, a whole rundown, and everything. And it was a very sad day for me. And she started crying, I started crying, we both started crying. So we got over it after that. And then I think at the beginning of December, my dad came over, and my grandma was like, tell him. She brought him into my room, and she's like, tell him. And then my dad's confused as hell, and I'm like, no, I don't want to tell him. And my grandma told him, and then he said, he just gave me a whole cute little speech, and he was happy. He wasn't that disappointed, but it was all hard to tell everybody. Like, I didn't want to say anything to anybody. I just wanted everybody to find out. I should have just like left my belly until everybody seen, and was like, well, nobody knew I was still dating my boyfriend at the time. And then my grandma was like, by who? Because I kept it a secret from her for months. Like, I didn't tell her I was back with him. I never told my whole family I was back with him. And I told her, by who? I told her him. And she got mad at me, and my whole family got mad at me. My brother called me dumb, and I don't know, everyone was just very disappointed in me, and they were mad at the fact that I was back with him. But now they love him to death again. Like, they got over the fact that they got in an argument and all that. But so I went to and then my second appointment, they told me I wasn't 5 weeks, that was more. I was like 8 weeks. And so after that, we went to another appointment. Actually I went to the ER before I went to my next appointment, and then that's where I got my first ultrasound, the ER, and it was like a little tiny peanut. And that's when he like was so happy. My baby dad was so happy. He was excited. He was all like all cheesy and everything, and he was just so happy. And I don't know how he told his parents, they didn't really care. But so it actually worked out very good, because then I think in December I brought him to a family party. My family didn't like him at the time. They were all like quiet around him. He didn't want to go, but kind of forced him to go so they could all get along, because I wanted them to actually get along. And like, but it kind of worked out. Like after that I started bringing him to more parties, and everyone started getting along with him. My cousin started chilling with him more, and everyone just started getting along. And then I went to my next appointment in December. They checked the heartbeat. They found the heartbeat, and they told me I was a little more weeks. And then they just kept switching up my dates of how many weeks I was, when was my due date, and all this. And I was very confused. They wasn't telling me the truth, obviously. Like their machines was broken or something. So, and then I fell down the stairs around, in like, how many weeks was I think it was around like January. I fell down the stairs in January, and then I ended up going to the ER. I was bleeding, and they told me that I had a tear in my placenta, that I had to be very careful, that I'm high risk. And I was very careful. I didn't do much. I still was going to school, but it was hard because I would get yelled at if I was walking too much, if I was doing something too much. My OBGYN was mad. Like she didn't, I don't know. I couldn't really do too much. But so after the tear in my placenta, I just lived normally. I got my ultrasounds done and everything. I went to my appointments on schedule. I did everything. And then about when I was 28 weeks, I was kind of feeling funny, and I thought my water broke. So I went to the hospital. They said yes, my water broke, and then they transferred me to another hospital. So because the hospital I went to, they didn't deliver early. So I went to another hospital. They told me, and then the next hospital they told me my water wasn't broken, but I guess I had just like a small leak in my water, and they didn't even notice that. So I went back. They kept me in for a week, about a week. They kept me in, and then they wanted to see if he was okay, and he sure was. He was good. I had just that little small leak in my water. And then the next day I went home. I went to the store. I started walking around, and because there was like a little cookout outside my house, so I was just basically doing whatever you do at a party or a cookout. You walk around. So, and then I just started gushing like water, like pinkish water everywhere. And then that's like, I was like, damn, that is my water. Like, and I saw my grandma calling the room. I'm like, what should I do? And then she told me that is my water. They can't deny that. And then she called the ambulance for me, and I was scared to go because I didn't want to get yelled at for the fact that they just told me. They just sent me home, and they told me my water wasn't broken, but it was. And then they told me my water was broken. They said, well, one of the nurses said, oh, she's back already. And I kind of took offense to that, because like, come on, I'm a patient, and you're like, but so I went to the hospital. They took me from the ER. My water's broken. They wanted me to stay flat on my stomach, on my back, so I can't move. And then once I came to the ER, they rushed me on the bed, and they told me not to move. I was not allowed to move right then and there. They had me on a monitor to put IVs in me. They tried stopping my contractions. They were monitoring my contractions. They were monitoring everything. So by the time they stopped all my contractions, like everything calmed down. It was like about a couple hours they stopped my contractions. And then they told me they wanted to keep me in until I was 34 weeks. I was at the time I was 28 weeks. So they told me I had to stay there until 34 weeks. So I stayed. They made me stay in the bed. I wasn't allowed to move. I wasn't allowed to get up. I wasn't allowed to do anything. And I wasn't allowed to go outside. I wasn't allowed to leave the room. If I wanted to use the bathroom or take a shower, I would have to call them to ask them to cover my IV so I could take a shower. And then,30 I did all that, and then after that, I think like at 30 weeks, that's when they let me like go outside on a wheelchair. Like I was allowed only on the wheelchair outside, because like I was kind of getting like anxious being inside and like all stressed from just being in a tight room. And then they started letting me like take walks, little walks, like inside the area I was in, and it kind of refreshed my brain and all that. So they kept stopping. By the time I was there, they probably stopped my contractions about 10 times, put in morphine. They put Aquafine, they gave me morphine, they gave me all these different pain medicines, all these different IVs and stuff to stop my water and stop my contractions. And about at 32 weeks, they couldn't stop it anymore. The pain was too intense. Like the level of pain was so bad, I don't know, but they just couldn't stop my contractions. My whole body was so numb, but my stomach was in pain because the morphine and all the meds they gave me numbed up my whole body but my stomach. I still felt the pain through everything. And so that's when they gave me an epidural, and they told me I had to be on an epidural or I will pass out, because my iron was so low. It was at like 27 point something or whatever, and they had to put iron in my veins. Like they had to like give me a shot of iron every day in my vein, and on top of that they had to give me the medication too. So I had to do both because my iron was very low, and they were scared for the outcome of when I gave birth. So yeah, I would take my meds, I would do everything right so they do whatever. And then at 32 weeks, the pain was too intense. They had to induce me. They had no choice to induce me because the baby could have been stressed out. And so they induced me, and about like an hour later, I took a nap first. So in about an hour later, I wake up and I'm like, I feel like I need to poop. I tell my grandma that I feel like I need to poop, and she's like, all right, don't push, stay there. And she was gonna call the nurse. So she called the nurse. She tells the nurse that I feel like I need to poop, and the nurse is like, okay, and she rushed all the nurses in there, all the rest of the nurses and the doctor and everything. And while I was pushing, she told me I had to push, and then while I was pushing, he was pushing back in. He didn't want to come out. I would push and he would slide back in. And then that's when they decided to cut so he can have a wider opening to come out. And the nurse was like a student nurse, so she was cutting me wrong, and the doctor was yelling at her the whole time saying, no, you cut this way, don't cut that way. And she was cutting me the wrong way and everything, and I'm over here trying to give birth. And then after the baby comes out, he wasn't crying, so they smacked him so he couldn't cry, and he cried. And when the lady was stitching me, she was doing it wrong too, and she just kept getting yelled at while she was, I don't know, she just kept getting yelled at. And then that's when my beautiful little baby came, and he was in the NICU for about a month, almost a month. It was like 3 weeks and 6 days, I think. And he came out pretty healthy. He had a surgery for a hernia, and he has another hernia in his belly button. And he went through 3 seizures, but he's so healthy and beautiful. His dad's still here, thank God. But that is my 17 and pregnant story, and I hope to hear about you guys's and get out your comfort zone and post yours, because you guys aren't the only ones out there. Bye. Thanks for watching my video. Like and subscribe.